Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be starting a new topic, that is various chemical reagents which are there in your syllabus. To start with, we will go with Oppenauer's oxidation. We'll go with Oppenauer's oxidation. So what is this Oppenauer's oxidation? If you see, it's a secondary alcohol which gets converted into your primary or secondary alcohol to a corresponding ketone using excess of your ketonic reagent. Using excess of your ketonic reagent. That's very important to be known. That's very important to be known. Okay. So what is the reaction? Oppenauer's oxidation is nothing but is an organic reaction of conversion of your primary or secondary alcohol into its corresponding ketone using an excess of ketonic reagent such as acetone and in presence of aluminum triisopropoxide as a catalyst. So in presence of aluminum triisopropoxide as a catalyst. So this is the reaction. So whenever you write a reaction, you should start with the basic thing. What type of reaction? So it is a conversion. If you see, it is a conversion of your alcohol, primary or secondary alcohol, to its corresponding ketones or aldehyde in presence of excess of ketone, that is acetone, and aluminum triisopropoxide as a cation. The oxidation is highly selective. So it's very selective oxidation reaction. It's a very selective type of oxidation of your secondary and does not oxidize other sensitive functional groups like your nitro, amine, sulfides. All these groups does not get does not gets oxidized. So Oppenauer's oxidation is commonly used process in synthesis of steroids, hormones, alkaloids, terpenes, where it has all got other sensitive groups which are prone to oxidation. So if you want to specifically oxidize your hydroxyl group to your corresponding aldehyde and a ketone, you use your Oppenauer's oxidation, which is highly selective for this particular function. So it converts your alcohol to your corresponding aldehyde or ketone, to your corresponding aldehyde or ketones. Okay, so this is the basic reactions. So now let's go for the mechanism. So what is the first step in this reaction? If you see this particular reaction in the screen, the first step is your aluminum attacks on your OH. Aluminum attacks on your OH. Your aluminum attacks on your OH. Aluminum attacks your OH group. Aluminum attacks your OH group. Okay. So first step mechanism is that alcohol forms a coordinate complex with your aluminum to form a complex 3. Okay. So first step, if you see, aluminum forms a coordinate complex with the liberation of your isopropoxide ion. This isopropoxide ion, that is third, will abstract proton from your hydrogen, from your complex 3 that you are found by the reaction between your coordination complex between aluminum and alcohol. So your proton is removed from aluminum isopropoxide to give your intermediate 5. Okay, to give your intermediate 5. So alkoxide is generated. So what is this? Deprotonation, generation of an alkoxide 5. So 5 alkoxide is generated, and also along with it, you get your corresponding isopropyl alcohol. So now what is the second step? Next step. So you're using excess of ketonic reagent. Okay, that is your acetone. Now what is the next step? In the next step, it forms a 6-membered chair-like transition step. Your aluminum coordinates with your oxygen of your acetone. Okay, and it forms a 6-membered transition state. If you see, so in the third step, what happens? In the third step, what happens? Your acetone and the substrate that you got in the previous step, that is 5, are bound to the aluminum. In doing so, acetone, there is an 6-member transition state that occurs. There is a 6-member transition state that occurs. If you see, there is a 6-member transition. So what happens? Alcohol forms an coordinate complex with their aluminum. In doing so, there is a 6-member. So what happens next? Next, there is an hydride ion transfer. See, hydride, that is H minus. There is an hydride ion. You got an H hydride ion from your alcohol, gets transferred to your alcohol, gets transferred to your acetone. Your hydride ion from your alcohol gets transferred to your acetone moiety. So there is an hydride transfer that occurs, that you see in the particular, that 8 intermediate. In the 8 intermediate, there is an internal hydride transfer from your alcohol to your acetone. Okay, so this leads to what? So there is a transition state. So there is a constant type of reaction. The hydride from the alcohol goes to your acetone, and there is a bond breaking between your acetone and your alcohol and the aluminum. This leads to your formation of your corresponding ketone, and you get back your aluminum isopropoxide triisopropyl back and your corresponding ketone. This is your Oppenauer's oxidation. This is your Oppenauer's oxidation. So what is that? What is the first step? There is a formation of your coordinate between your alcohol and your aluminum to form a complex 3, which is shown. Then your aluminum isopropoxide ion that is formed, that abstracts a proton from your intermediate 3 to generate your alkoxide intermediate 5 and your isopropyl alcohol. The third step is there is a coordination, similar coordination between your substrate 5 and your acetone, leading to a formation of 6-member transition state. And in doing so, your aluminum activates it to give your hydride transfer from your alkoxide. Okay, there is an hydride which is alpha to your carbon. So from your carbonyl, there is an hydride transfer to your carbonyl of your acid. Okay, in the 6-member transitions. So once there is an hydride ion, once the hydride ion is completed, there is a generation of your, in presence of water, it breaks open to give you your aluminum triisopropoxide back and your desired ketone. You get your desired ketone. So these are the various steps involved in your Oppenauer's oxidation. So this is very important. This comes for 5 marks, or just write the reaction conditions for Oppenauer's oxidation and its application. This comes for 5 as well as in 2 marks question. Okay, first step is your generation of alkoxide 5, then your attack of this intermediate on your acetone to give you a 6-membered transition state. In this transition state, this leads to a hydride ion which is alpha to your alkoxide, and this leads to your further formation of your corresponding ketone due to the hydride ion transfer from your alcohol to your carbonyl group, and formation of your aluminum isopropoxide and your corresponding ketone Okay, so this is your Oppenauer's oxidation. This is your Oppenauer's. Now let's go for your next reaction. So what is the next reaction? It is Dawkins reaction. What it is? It is Dawkins reaction. In Dawkins reaction is a replacement of your aldehyde group of ortho or para substituted hydroxy group or an ortho amino benzaldehyde or a ketone by a hydroxy group in an alkaline hydrogen peroxide. So what happens if you can see your carbonyl like aldehyde and group aromatic in presence of ortho or para hydroxy or amino group to its corresponding alcohol, where your aldehyde group is replaced by an alcoholic group, that is hydroxyl group, such in presence of your alkaline hydrogen peroxide. So the condition has to be remembered. It should be an alkaline peroxide. It should be an alkaline peroxide. Okay. So whenever reaction is asked for 2 marks, you have to write this particular example. You can take an aldehyde or a ketone, ortho hydroxy aldehyde and a ketone to gets converted to a corresponding cation or a catechol amine. If there is an amino group, it is you give a corresponding amino group, catechol amine. Okay. So the product form depends upon the starting material. If the ortho substituted phenol is the starting material, if the ortho substituted phenol is the starting material, if the ortho substituted phenol is the starting material, okay, then your catechol is formed. Then catechol is formed. Then catechol is formed. If the in the mechanism para substituted phenols is explained, which results in formation of a quinol. So if there is an ortho substituted phenol, you get an catechol. If it is an para substituted phenol, you get a quinol. That is, your hydroxy group will be at the 1,4. Dihydroxy group will be at the 1,4. In case of catechol, it is at 1,2 position. So this is how you try to synthesize the corresponding compound. So oxidation of your aldehyde and ketone to corresponding phenol is known as the Dawkins reaction. The reaction best works in case of aromatic aldehydes and ketone which are electron rich, which are electron rich. Okay, this is where the reaction takes place. So wherever there is an aromatic aldehyde or a ketone which has got an electron rich substitution attached to it at the ortho or para, such type of reactions, such type of compounds will undergo Dawkins reaction in presence of alkaline hydrogen peroxides. In presence of alkaline peroxides. Okay. So basic reaction. Now let's go for the mechanism. So what exactly happens? The first and foremost important step in this reaction is generation of your hydrogen peroxide anion. Okay. So first step is generation of your hydroperoxide anion. Where do you get this? So your alkaline condition, your alkali extracts proton from your peroxide. So this hydrogen peroxide ion attacks on your this hydrogen peroxide anion which is formed. This hydrogen peroxide anion which is formed. This attacks undergoes a nucleophilic addition reaction on the carbonyl carbon. If you can see over here, this hydrogen peroxide anion attacks on the carbonyl. This leads to formation of your O minus. Okay, your intermediate 2, tetrahedral intermediate 2, and there is once this tetrahedral intermediate is formed, it undergoes rearrangement. The next step is 1,2 aryl migration. There is an 1,2 aryl migration. 1,2. So your benzyl phenyl ring at the first position gets migrated to your another oxygen to get your corresponding ester, phenyl ester moiety. So what if you see over here? Once it undergoes rearrangement, the O minus gets converted to your carbonyl group and the phenyl group undergoes 1,2 aryl shift and there is a loss of hydroxide ion. So this is your second step, that is 1,2 aryl shift. Always remember there should be an 1,2 aryl shift or your migration. So once this phenyl ester is formed, so OH minus which is liberated in your previous step attacks on your carbonyl group again and it undergoes hydrolysis. So the third step is your hydrolysis of your phenyl ester. So once your OH minus attacks over here, it undergoes hydrolysis to give your corresponding phenol and your carboxylic acid to give your corresponding acid. Okay, you get your phenoxide ion and your carboxylic acid, and the carboxylic acid, the phenol abstract carboxyl H from your carboxylic acid gets converted into phenol and your carboxylate ion. Okay, form your carboxylate ion. So this is the mechanism. Okay, this is the mechanism. So you have to always remember what is the first and foremost important formation of your car hydrogen peroxide anion. So formation of your hydrogen peroxide, from where it is formed? From your basic condition, alkaline. So it removes your proton from your hydrogen peroxide to form a carbanion. This carbanion then attacks on and undergoes a nucleophilic addition reaction on your carbonyl carbon. Okay, forming a tetrahedral intermediate. Forming a tetrahedral intermediate. Forming a tetrahedral intermediate. So what happens next? Then there is a next step is if you see in the intermediate 2, it undergoes rearrangement. O minus comes back to form a carbonyl. In doing so, there is an 1,2 aryl migration. There is an 1,2 aryl migration with an elimination of hydrogen peroxide, hydroxide ion, and formation of your phenyl ester 3. You get your phenyl ester 3, which is in your next step is your hydrolysis of your phenyl ester. So it undergoes hydrolysis. Your OH minus attacks on your carbonyl carbon. You get your O minus, then it's a rearrangement to give your corresponding phenoxide ion and a carboxylic acid. And then finally the phenoxide ion extracts acidic proton from your carboxylic acid, yielding your corresponding phenol and your corresponding carboxylate ion. Okay, so this is your mechanism of your Dawkins reaction. This is the mechanism of your Dawkins reaction, how the product is formed. Okay, how the product is formed. So the factors affecting this reaction. So there are two rate limiting steps. So there are two rate limits which determines the rate of reactions of this corresponding Dawkins oxidation. The first is nucleophilic addition of your hydrogen peroxide anion to the carbonyl carbon and your 1,2 aryl migration. So these are the two rate limiting steps. Therefore, the overall rate of oxidation is dependent on your nucleophilicity of your hydrogen peroxide. So any hydrogen peroxide which has greater nucleophilicity will act for, and the second is electrophilicity of your carbonyl carbon and which speed up the 1,2 aryl. So electrophilicity depends upon your electrophilicity of your carbonyl carbon and the speed of 1,2 aryl. So these are all the factors that determine your kinetics of your reaction. The alkyl substitutions on the carbonyl carbon. The alkyl relative position of your hydroxyl, the carbonyl carbon on the aryl, the presence of functional groups on the ring, and the reaction mixture pH are the four factors that affect this rate limit. So what are things? Alkyl substitution. Why alkyl substitution? So what happens if there is an alkyl substitution? It decreases the electrophilicity. Why? Because your alkyl groups are electron donating group. So it will reduce the electrophilicity of your carbonyl group. So that's why your aldehyde groups are more reactive than your ketonic group. Relative position of your hydroxyl group in your ring. So if it is an ortho and para, so it will increase the electron density in the ring and it will assist your carbonyl migration of your aryl phenyl group. It will assist the migration of your phenyl group. It will assist the 1,2 and also the presence of other functional group on the ring. If it's an electron donating group, then it favors the reaction. And the reaction mixture pH. So as you said, the rate limiting step depends upon the formation of your hydrogen peroxide anion. So the reaction should be done in your basic pH, not in your acidic pH. So these are the criteria that has to be considered when are you doing your Dawkins reaction oxidation. That is The pH should be basic. It should have an electron donating group attached to your phenyl ring, which will favor your 1,2 aryl migration. The alkyl substitution should not be better, not that, because it will reduce the nuclear electrophilicity of your carbonyl carbon. Okay. It should be in a basic medium. It should be in a basic medium. Okay. So these are the few criteria factors that affects the rates of reactions in case of Dawkins reaction. So variation, as I was telling, variation in the aryl ring migratory aptitude can be explained by hydroxyl group, ortho and para to your carbonyl group groups. Concentrate electron density in the carbonyl carbon bonded to your carbonyl group. So what happens? This will increase your electron density in your carbonyl carbon at the aryl carbon. Next is phenyl groups have low migratory aptitude but high electron density at the migratory carbon. So when there is an increase in electron density at the migratory carbon, that is your carbon which is attached to your carbonyl. So when electron density increases at that particular carbon, this increases your migratory aptitude, that is facilitating your 1,2 aryl migration. That's the reason if there is any ring, any substitution which increases your electron density in it, that favors your 1,2 aryl migration. Meta do not concentrate the electron at the migratory carbon. So if you see meta hydroxy group, if you see the meta hydroxy group, they will not increase electronic density at the migratory carbon. Okay, thus ready makes the migratory aptitude low. Benzylic hydrogen, which have the highest migrates instead of your phenyl carboxylic acid. Substitution of phenyl rings hydrogen with an electron donating group ortho and para to the carbonyl group increases the electron density at the migratory carbon and promotes your 1,2 and accelerates your oxidation. Substitution of electron donating meta to the carbon does not change the electron density because the unsubstituted phenol migratory group is low and hydrogen migration dominates. Okay, so this will reduce the migration of the couple. So there should be always an electron donating group at ortho and para substitution. Electron withdrawing group decreases the electron density. Electron withdrawing group decreases the electron density at the migratory carbon. Okay, thus inhibits 1,2 aryl migration. Favors hydrogen migration. So if you see in the particular example, when O minus comes, if you see the resonating structure, if the hydroxyl at the para position, O minus comes, so it will increase the electron density in the migratory carbon at the phenylic group at the carbon where there is a migration. Okay, if you can see. Similarly in the ortho substitution also, this will increase the electron density at the phenylic carbon where the migration takes place. So whichever groups which will increase the electron density at the migratory carbon, which will increase the electron density on the migrating carbon, which will favor the reaction. Okay. Now if you see in the meta position, there is no electron density at the migratory carbon. So this will not favor the. So there is concentration of ion at the migratory carbon. So there is a positive that will not favor your migratory property. That is, therefore it will not favor 1,2 aryl migration. So that will not favor your aryl migration. So if there is an electron withdrawing group at the para position. So these are the criteria. Application. That is used for synthetic. It is used for the preparation of 2,3-dimethoxyanisole. So if you take 2-hydroxy 3-methoxy benzaldehyde, this can be converted into your 2,3-dimethoxyanisole. Similarly, para-hydroxy acetophenone can be converted into hydroquinone, which is very much important as an antioxidant. Okay, so These are the uses of your Dawkins reactions. So these are some of the applications where it is used: hydroquinones, alcohol preparation, catechol, which are very much important for as starting material for various synthesis of various compounds in your sympathetic and parasympathetic in your cholinergic drugs. It is also used for synthesis of various flavorants, preparing of photographic agents like hydroquinones, tetra 2-tetrabutyl 4-hydroxyanisole, which is an antioxidant, commonly used in your packaging industries, Okay, these are some, and they are also used in various antibiotics, antifungal, and anti-tumor activities. Okay, so just remember some of the examples. Basically, they are used for preparation of benzyl diols or alkoxyphenols. So these are various uses of your Dawkins reaction. Now comes sodium borohydrate. Now come sodium borohydrate. So again, sodium borohydrate. So what is this sodium borohydrate? It's an reducing agent. So what is basically sodium borohydrate? Sodium borohydrate is basically an reducing agent which reduces your aldehydes and ketones to its corresponding alcohols, primary or secondary alcohol. But it does not reduce esters, carboxylic acid, acyl chlorides, and amides. So you have to be very specific. It's a mild reducing agent which reduces your aldehydes and ketones to its corresponding primary or secondary alcohol. Your primary or secondary alcohol. Okay, just now. Sodium borohydrate, as I said, it is used for the reduction of your aldehydes and ketones only to your corresponding primary or secondary alcohol, not your carboxylic acid, esters, and acyl chloride cannot be reduced by sodium. It is only specific for your aldehydes and ketones. So what is the first step? So first step is your generation of your hydride ion. So the sodium borohydrate, it generates your hydride ion, that is H minus ion. So hydride ion is H minus ion. So this hydride ion generate, then it will attack on your carbonyl carbon. Okay, hydride, that is H minus, nucleophilic attack on your carbonyl carbon to give your O minus, to give your alkoxide intermediate, and this alkoxide intermediate, when you pour it into water, it gets converted into your corresponding. Then you do your workup in your acidic medium, it gets converted into your corresponding alcohol. So similar example that has been shown. So your sodium borohydrate, it's a source of a hydride ion. Okay, this will give you an O minus, forms an intermediate. Then in water, it gets converted into your corresponding alcohol. And still the intermediate that you see, O minus ethanolic BS3, which is it is still a reducing it. It can still give you a hydride ion, and still act as an reducing agent. So sodium borate, once the reaction starts, it can be used in a minimum quantity because they are completely source of your hydride ion. So the reaction will continue. So it is not necessary to take 1:1. Even if you take lesser quantity of your borohydrates, still the reaction go, because it acts as itself reducing agent once it is activated. Okay, so single sodium borohydrate is a source of 4 hydride ions. So single borohydrate, sodium borohydrate, is source of 4 hydride ions. So one single molecule of your sodium borohydrate can reduce 4 times your carbonyl groups. Okay, this is why it is called, is used. Okay, so what is it? It is an hydride attacks on the carbonyl compound forming an alkoxide, which gets protonated by your dilute acid. Only reacts with your carbonyl compound, as I said, and aldehydes and ketone, not with your carbonyls of your esters or your carboxylic acids. So what this is the smaller way to represent. So sodium borate, source of your hydride ion, it forms your intermediate alkoxide intermediate. So when you put it in water, you get your corresponding, you get your corresponding alcohol and your sodium hydroxide as your. So this is your basic reactions of your sodium borate. Now next comes your lithium aluminum. It is similar to that of your sodium borohydride. So what is the formula for lithium aluminum? Al aluminum LiAH4. Okay, LiAH4. That is lithium aluminum and 4 hydride ions. Okay, so this is the basic formula of your lithium aluminum hydride. This is the basic formula of your lithium aluminum hydride. This is your basic formula for your lithium aluminum hydride. Okay, so what is this lithium aluminum hydride? If you have known, so lithium aluminum hydride. So lithium aluminum hydride is also a reducing agent. It's also a reducing agent. It's also a reducing agent. It's also a reducing agent. But it is much stronger as compared to that of your sodium borohydride. It is much stronger to that of your sodium borohydride. Owing to the weaker aluminum hydrogen bonds compared to that of boron hydrogen. The bond between your hydrogen and your aluminum is much weaker compared to, so that can be easily, basically they are kept in inert solvents like your diethyl ether THF, followed by an acid workup. So whenever you're trying to work it up, once the reaction is over, you have to work up with an dilute acid. It is useful for your conversion of your ester, carboxylic acid, acyl chlorides, aldehyde ketones to its corresponding alcohols. Finally, similarly, it converts your amides, nitro, nitriles, amine, oxam, azides to its corresponding amine. So you can convert your esters alcohol to your alcohols and your amides, nitro, and nitriles, amines, and oxams to its corresponding amine. So this is the best way reagent for your conversion of your various carbonyl groups into your corresponding amide and your alcohol. So this is lithium aluminum hydride. So even it is also source of an hydrogen. It's a strong residue reducing agent as compared to your sodium, but it is dangerous to work with. It is highly explosive. It reduces aldehydes, not only aldehydes but its corresponding, but it converts its corresponding carboxylic ester acids to its corresponding primary alcohol. Now let's see the mechanism of action of your lithium aluminum for its conversion of your esters into corresponding alcohol. So it's a basically multi-step reaction. It's a multi-step reaction, but the starting is the same. What is the first step? It's a nucleophilic attack, hydride ion H- attack on the carbonyl carbon of the polar carbonyl carbon of the ester. So what happens? Your hydride ion from your lithium aluminum hydride attacks on your hydride ion, attacks on your carbonyl carbon. So this leads to a formation of your the electrons from your carbonyl group, okay, moves towards the electrophilic oxygen. So if you see, when there is an hydride ion attack on the carbonyl carbon, the electron in the carbonyl moves towards your electronegative oxygen, creating a tetrahedral intermediate. If you see, this leads to a formation of a tetrahedral intermediate of your metal alkoxide complex. You get a metal alkoxide complex. If you see the second structure in the particular reaction, so you get a metal alkoxide complex. So what happens? So immediately this tetrahedral intermediate collapses. Collapses means it disintegrates. In doing so, there is it displaces the alcohol portion of your ester, that is your ester O. Ethoxide is removed from the ester. It forms an alkoxide and produces your corresponding aldehyde intermediate. So from your ester you get your corresponding aldehyde. You get your corresponding aldehyde. This is the first intermediate. So this is an aldehyde. So aldehyde, since lithium aluminum is a stronger reagent, reducing agent, this will further attack on this aldehyde which is formed, which is an intermediate. So again, this aldehyde acts as a substrate for your reducing agent, that is lithium aluminum. So again, what happens? Again, the lithium aluminum hydride generates an hydride ion which attacks on the carbonyl carbon of your aldehyde to give your alkoxide intermediate. Similarly, your O minus gives your alkoxide intermediate, and it gives your alkoxide, metal alkoxide compound, and this breaks up in your acid base workup. So this will break up in your acidic workup. It gets your alkoxide gets protonated to give your primary alcohol intermediate, and your complex breaks up to give your alcohol and your reagent. Okay, this is your mechanism of action of your, this is your mechanism of action of your lithium aluminum hydride. It's a two-step. First step is generation of your aldehyde, and second step is again attack of your lithium aluminum hydride on your aldehyde to give your corresponding primary alcohol, to give your primary alcohol. So it's a two-step mechanism. Okay, first is for generation of your aldehyde intermediate. Again, second is generation of attack of a carbonate. In both the cases, there is a metal alkoxide intermediate that is formed that collapses. In first step, it collapses to give your aldehyde with the loss of your alkoxide intermediate, and the second step, there is a loss. There is an cleavage of your bond, metal alkoxide bond, in your acidic medium to give your corresponding primary alcohol. So this is the mechanism of action of your lithium aluminum hydride. This comes for 5 marks. Okay, your mechanism comes for 5 marks. Okay, please remember this. One question from this will come for 5 marks, and some 1 or 2 questions will come for 2 marks each. So this is also one example of your amides, how it is converted to your how your amides gets converted. So if you see over here, I'll explain this. So first step, again, hydride ion attack on your carbonyl carbon. Okay, attacks on the hydride, adds to the electrophilic carbon in a polar carbonyl group of your ester. Electrons from your carbonyl carbon moves towards creating a tetrahedral intermediate, that is a metal alkoxide complex. What is the next thing that happens? The tetrahedral collapses and displaces. In this case, it displaces the oxygen as a part of your metal alkoxide, leaving, and produces an highly reactive enamine intermediate. So in this case, what happens? Instead of your nitrogen that goes off, as you see in case of your esters, your alkoxide, but here you get the alkoxide intermediate is removed, and you get an enamine. You get an enaminium ion intermediate. So again, what happens? Your hydride ion attacks on this to form your corresponding amine. So the hydride ion attacks on your iminium system. The pi electrons from your carbon nitrogen double bond moves towards your cationic, neutralizing the charge, creating an amine. So what happens when the H- attacks? the double bond formed between enonium ion, it moves towards your nitrogen. Okay, that bond moves to your more electronegative nitrogen, and this leads to your formation of your amide. So thus we get an amide from your amine from your amide. So this is a mechanism for conversion of your amide to your amine. Here, the most important thing is that the breakage of your destruction of your tetrahedral intermediate to give enonium, iminium, and ion to give your iminium ion. And this iminium ion gets attacked by your lithium aluminum hydride to give your corresponding amide. So this is the mechanism of action of your lithium aluminum hydride, that is conversion of your amide to your amine in case of lithium. So now let's see the properties. Sodium hydride only reduces aldehyde and ketones. Okay, whereas lithium aluminum hydride is a strong reducing agent. As I mentioned earlier, it can reduce all acid chlorides, amide, esters, ketones, aldehydes, amines, amides, nitriles, azides, everything to your corresponding alcohol and your amide. Okay, this is lithium aluminum hydride. Now let's go. So these were the initial three. Now comes the reduction. Some of the examples of reduction. And this Clemenson's reduction, you might have studied it a lot during the synthesis of your polyaromatic system. So in your Haworth synthesis, you might have come across this particular reduction. That is Clemenson's reduction, conversion of a carbonyl to your methylenic group. So what is this basic reaction? So Clemenson's reduction is nothing but conversion of your carbonyl group to your methylene group. That is reduction of your aldehydes and ketones to the corresponding alkenes using zinc amalgam. Zinc amalgam complex and in acidic medium. So very much important. If you don't write acidic medium, you will not get. If you forget to write HCl or H plus, that means you don't know the reaction. So every time your HCl presence should be there. So this reaction only takes place in acidic medium in presence of zinc amalgam. So it conversion of a ketones here, ketones and aldehydes into your corresponding alkenes. Okay, so into your corresponding alkenes. Okay, now let's go for the mechanism of action. Very important mechanism of action. It's simple. Okay. Here the transfer from the metal ion surface to the carbon atoms for the protonate, right? Carbonyl group takes place. So what is the basic mechanism? It is your electron transfer to your carbocations which is generated in the as an intermediate. So first step is your protonation of your carbonyl oxygen. This leads to your, so what happens? O minus. Then the electron from the double bond goes towards your oxygen to neutralize the positive charge on the oxygen, because it is more electron, it will remove the electron towards itself, and the carbon attains the positive charge. So you get a secondary you get a carbocation, you get a corresponding carbocation. So this carbocation, what happens to this particular carbocation? The zinc, now the zinc metal then gives away the 2 electrons to the carbocation to form a carbanion. So this this zinc metal, it will give the 2 electrons to form a zinc ion, and you get your corresponding carbanion. That is your second step, formation of your carbanion by the transfer of electrons from the metal surface to your carbocation and generation of your carbon. The next step is this carbon, and which is next step is again protonation of your OH. So in doing so, there is a loss of water. This loss of water in acidic medium leads to formation of another carbocation, which again gets 2 electrons from your zinc to form a carbanion, and which again gets protonated in your acidic medium to form your corresponding alkenes from your carbonyl carbon. So there is a two-step reaction. First step is your protonation of carbocation of your carbonyl bond to generate a carbocation, which gets there is a transfer of electron from the metal surface of the zinc to form a carbonyl. Next step is again protonation of your OH and protonation of your OH, and so one this gets protonated, you get your H from your acidic medium, protonates your carbanion, which is formed in the previous step, also protonates the OH to form, and there is a loss of water. And loss of water leads to formation of another secondary carbocation, which again accept the electrons from your metal surface to form a carbanion, which again abstracts a proton from your acidic medium to convert it to an alkane. This is how you convert an carbonyl group into your alkene. This is a mechanism of actions of your Clemenson's reduction. Okay. Application. It is used for conversion of carbonyl into your methylene group. It is also an application in polyaromatic system, as I explained in your Haworth synthesis, to reduce your aliphatic and mixed aliphatic aromatic compounds, reduction of keto acids. Okay. So if there is a keto acid, if you want to reduce specifically the keto groups, so you can use this particular Clemenson's reduction. You can use your Clemenson's reduction. It is also used for the reduction of your cholestyramine 3-one, that is your cholestyramine 3-one to your cholestyramine moiety. Okay. It is used in your synthesis of your steroids also. So that was one method of reduction. That is Clemenson's reduction. That is Clemenson's reduction. Now let's go for Wolff-Kishner's reduction. Let's go for Wolff-Kishner's reduction. It was discovered by Kishner and Wolff in 1911 and 12. Okay, Wolff-Kishner reduction is the reaction used in organic chemistry to convert, similarly like that of your Clemenson's conversion of your carbonyl group into your methylene groups. It is used for conversion of your carbonyl groups into your methynyl group. So in Wolff-Kishner reduction is an alkene used to convert aldehydes and ketone to its alkane using hydrazine, base, and thermal condition. So what do? You convert you treat your aldehydes and ketone with an hydrazine in presence of a base. So the reaction, this particular reaction takes place in basic condition, whereas your Clemenson's reduction, you have to remember, takes place in your acidic medium. So this is the basic difference between Wolff-Kishner and your Clemenson's reduction. Your Clemenson's reduction takes place in acidic medium, whereas your Wolff-Kishner reduction takes place in your basic medium. Because Wolff-Kishner requires basic condition, it is unsuitable for base sensitive substrate. Any substrate which contains an ester group or anything, so which are sensitive to your basic medium, should not be used. Okay, it's not suitable for any base sensitive substrate. So what is the basic reaction? First step is your formation of hydrazone, and which at high thermal condition it decomposes to give your corresponding alkene from your carbonyl, that is aldehydes, to your alkenes. So this is your basic mechanism is conversion. That is, you take a carbonyl group containing an aldehyde or a ketone, convert it to an hydrazone, you heat it, there's a loss of nitrogen, and you get your corresponding alkane. So this is a basic reaction. So now let's go for your mechanism. Now let's go for the mechanism of your Wolff-Kishner's reduction. So what is the first step of this thing? The first step, as I said, it is the formation of your hydrazone. So formation of your hydrazone. Now what happens? The hydrazone which is formed, which is not shown. So what is hydrazone formation? When an ketone reacts with an hydrazine, you get your double bond in your double bond O gets converted into double bond C double bond N and NH2. So this is your hydrazone. Okay, your hydrazine reacts with your carbonyl group to give your hydrazone. So that is the first step that you have to write. So once this hydrazone is formed, in the basic condition, the base abstracts a proton from your hydrazone. So it removes the proton from your nitrogen present in your hydrogen present in your hydrogen. So this leads, so what happens, it removes a proton, so there is a negative charge in nitrogen, so there is a shift in the negative charge from the nitrogen to your carbonyl group due to the deprotonation of your nitrogen atom in the hydrogen. So what is the next step? So reaction is in aqueous medium, so this particular carbon ion which is generated gets protonated by your aqueous medium, okay, to get your particular intermediate. Okay, you get another hydrogen, you get a particular azote. Now what happens the next step? Again the base which is the which was liberated in the previous step, it again removes the proton from your nitrogen. It again removes the proton from your nitrogen. In doing so, nitrogen is liberated, nitrogen gas is liberated, water is formed, and again another carbo anion is formed. So third step again, deprotonation of the nitrogen leads to your release of your nitrogen gas and formation of your carbon anion. So this is a second carbon anion that is formed. Again, the last step is again protonation by in your aqueous medium to give your corresponding carb alkene. So this is how you convert your carbonyl group into your alkene. So this is a basic mechanism of action of your Wurtz-Krichner. The first step is formation of hydrogen. Second step is your deprotonation of nitrogen. In doing so, there is a transfer of electron from the nitrogen to your carbon, formation of a carbon ion, which gets protonated by your aqueous medium. Second step again, the hydroxide ion attacks, removes your proton from your nitrogen. In the second step, there is a loss of nitrogen and water is formed, and the carbon ion that is formed gets converted into your corresponding alkene, and you get your, so this is base catalyzed hydrogen reaction. Okay, so this is a basic mechanism of action of your Wurtz-Krichner's reduction. This is your basic mechanism of action of your Wurtz-Krichner reaction. So I'll be taking another bridge reduction, Beckmann and Smith and Curtius in the next class. I'll be completing that. So till here I'll be doing for today. Okay.